It's the realist.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your guy Realistic, and welcome to my tutorial vault. That's right, I'm gonna start grabbing some of my most classic tutorials over the years out of the vault and re-releasing them. That way y'all can enjoy, get your mixing and mastering skills back up. So if you find any of the information useful, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. That way this keeps showing up in your feed, and sit back and enjoy the content. I do have a few online courses out there, like the art of vocal mixing, the art of beat mixing, and the art of mastering. So if you're interested in that, all of those have tons of chapters, tons of videos, and hours worth of content of professional techniques that we use to mix and master records. So I'll put the link in the description below to access all of those courses. So I got a session here pulled up, and I'm going to show you just a little thing of how I EQ reverbs. Because I think when it comes to reverbs, they should be treated just like anything else in the mix, whether it's an instrument or vocal. They should be EQ'd and adjusted accordingly to the mix. Every single track is going to be different. So when you see me pull out some frequencies on this particular track, that doesn't necessarily mean that you would pull those same exact frequencies out on the track that you're working on. But I'm going to kind of show you what I'm looking for. So when you're mixing your reverbs, you'll know what to actually look for. Now, I do have an entirely separate video on reverbs where I talk about different things I do, like sidechain compression, where I use a vocal to trigger a compressor on the reverb to duck the reverb down a little bit. There's also tips in there like saturation and de-essing and just a bunch of other things. So if those are more the tips that you're looking for, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll put a link in the top of the screen so you can just click on that, because this particular one I'm only focusing on reverbs. So what I'll do here is I'm going to actually grab my reverb track and I'm going to pull this a little bit closer to our vocal here, right? And so this is why using a send and return is ideal for reverbs. Instead of just slapping it right on your vocal track and then using the wet dry, we can actually do some mixes and stuff like that. Okay, so the first thing that I always do is I actually do start with an EQ before my reverb here. Now, people will mention in the comments that the reverb already has an EQ on here. It does, but this is for majority of reverbs. This is going to be post reverb, and I do want something that's going to be pre-reverb as well. We're going to get to post reverb in a moment. Now, I do know there are reverb plugins like Isotope Neoverb, and there's probably some off-brand ones that I don't know about that do have pre-EQ on there. But for the sake of this tutorial, we're going to throw an EQ on right here before the actual reverb. And you can see I'm not really doing too much, you know, because I've already EQ'd the vocal and everything, right? But what I'm doing here is the main thing that I'm doing is I'm just filtering out all the low end information. And there might even be other things that go through here as well, like strings or whatever it may be, right? So the reason why I'm doing this is I don't want this information to even enter into the reverb to begin with. I just don't want that to be a factor. Low end information and reverb can sometimes create some havoc. And then the only other thing I did here was a shelf. You don't always have to do that, but sometimes on especially vocals that are this bright, I just kind of do this to tame down, and I'll enhance it later, but I just kind of want it to go into the reverb being tamed down, right? So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and give this track a listen how it is here.
Peace out in London, girl, it was better than nothing. Feeling connected to something, I never thought we were rushing. I would've married you, I would've kept.
Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll just bypass what this EQ's doing.
Streets out in London, girl, it was better than nothing. Feeling connected to something, I never thought we were rushing. I would've married you, I would've carried you into the next phase.
Right, just cleans that up a little bit. We're still going to do more, but that's kind of like the starting point that I go through, right? And then I mentioned too in that video, I go over other things too in that other video, like de-essing and sidechain compression and this and that. So we'll focus on that in that video if you want to check that out, because I'm just focusing on EQ and stuff. So what I did was I actually already did some EQ. So for the sake of this video, I'll just go ahead and reset that so you can watch exactly what I'm doing here. Now, I am aware that there's an EQ inside of pretty much any reverb here. And this particular one, this is actually pretty intuitive. But before this reverb even had came out, I was using another one, like I think it was Revive by Avid. So I had just gotten used to just using an EQ that I like and that I'm comfortable with. But hey, if you want to go ahead and use the reverb that's already, the EQ that's already in the reverb, go ahead and do that. Let's just eliminate that argument in the comment section right now of why I'm not doing that. You can do it that way. That's cool. I like to do it this way because we all have our little quirks and stuff that make us different. But anyways, don't let that distract you from the fact that we're going to get the same results, whether we use the EQ inside the reverb or if I'm using a reverb EQ afterwards. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, let's just focus on the actual technique instead of our differences here. So what I like to usually do here is I like to send this as a pre-fader just momentarily, and I like to just solo out the reverb, so I'm just hearing the reverb. Right, you can tell that's just straight up reverb right there. That way I can just kind of focus in on mixing the reverb. So what we'll go ahead and do is we'll start mixing. Don't necessarily really need to have this filter here, but I'm just throwing it in there just in case I might throw something else later down the road here that might have some low information. All right, and so just kind of listening to it. You know, there's some mid-range that's a little muddy that I can definitely clean up, and there's definitely some harshness, so I'm actually going to start with that harshness. Usually with the harsh frequencies, I usually use a dynamic EQ there to also do a little compression there. So what I was paying attention to right there was some hissing. So I was focusing down here at some harshness, over here some hissing, and I think there's a little bit more hissing too that we can get rid of. I'm sure a lot of you are already familiar with the technique that I'm doing, where I'm just boosting and sweeping around till I find the frequency that I don't like, and then I'm removing it. Yep, and I'll just kind of reduce that one. And then the last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to kind of scope around for some muddiness. And then I think there's another area here too. Right, and then here's without it. Here's with it. And I know that we tamed some stuff here, but what we can do is we can always kind of boost some things up here with a high shelf. Just in case we want to add a little more sparkle to it later on. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll take this out of pre-fader because we don't need it to be in pre-fader when we're working on when we blend it back into the vocal here. All right, and what I'll do is I'll just kind of blend this in here.
Peace out in London, girl, it was better than nothing. Feeling connected to something, I never thought we were rushing. I would've married you, I would've carried you into the next phase of life.
So let's listen without our post EQ.
Streets out in London, girl, it was better than nothing. Feeling connected to something, I never thought we were rushed.
And here's with the post EQ.
Streets out in London, girl, it was better than nothing. Feeling connected to something, I never thought we were rushing. I would've married you, I would've carried you into the...
And let's listen to it in the mix. Here's it bypassed.
Streets out in London, girl, it was better than nothing. Feeling connected to something, I never thought we were rushing. I would've married you, I would've carried you into the next phase of life. Well, we might have kids and fall into bliss, but now I'm alone with myself.
And that's it. That's all you really got to do right there as far as just the EQ process. One last thing, I guess I'll show you too, because we do have the pre-EQ as well. So let me show you what it sounds like without both of these activated here.
Streets out in London, girl, it was better than nothing. Feeling connected to something, I never thought we were rushing. I would've married you, I would've carried you into the next phase of.
And then let's listen to just the acapella here.
Streets out in London, girl, it was better than nothing. Feeling connected to something, I never thought we were rushing. I would've married you, I would've carried you into the next phase of life.
Just kind of smooths it out, and I feel like the vocal and the reverb now fits a little bit tighter with the actual mix itself. So yeah, that's just my little tips right there as far as EQing the reverbs. All you really got to do is just what you normally do when you EQ, just seek and destroy. Remember, it's always going to be different. There's going to be tracks where, for instance, I don't need to do none of this, and I might not even need to do that. There might be reverbs that look like this, and might be like that, might be like that, might even boost, you know. It all depends on the record that you're working for, but hopefully this at least showed you what kind of things to look for. Muddiness, harshness, and hissing. Just kind of reduce those things, and it should allow you to have a tighter sounding reverb that fits a little bit better a part of the actual mix. So thanks so much for taking the time to watch this tutorial. If you found it useful, be sure to like and subscribe because it does help the channel grow. When you like a video, it tells YouTube that you liked it, and maybe other people will like it as well. And also be sure to check out my online mixing and mastering courses, the art of beat mixing, the art of vocal mixing, and the art of mastering, all available now. And if this video was helpful and you're looking for other videos, you can watch a video here, here, and here. All right, until next time, y'all.